Good morning, everyone. Looking around, there's a few dusty heads, whether it's because of 4-month-old children or whether it was drinks last night. What better than to invigorate the mind and soul with a wee talk about blockchain? My name is Gary McKay. I'm the Managing Director of APPII. APPII is an online platform. We verify identities, we verify career history or CVs, backgrounds, and we enable employers to check all verified information out. We underpin that by blockchain technology. I've been working with blockchain technology for about 5 years. First within a bank, obviously financial services sector have been seeing this as a major threat to their businesses. So I worked in a bank and figured out how blockchain could affect their business. And then now starting up APPII. So I'm going to talk through a little bit about blockchain this morning. I'm not going to get too technical. If anyone wants to ask more technical questions, I'll be here all day. But I'll give you a light overview of what it is and how it's affecting the staff and recruitment sector. Sorry, I'm conscious of my shadow. First up, brokers. So commerce requires brokers. And it's very important to understand what brokers are in context of blockchain. Why? Because blockchain replaces brokers. It's a very existential threat that financial services are really concerned about. They are effectively brokers, and they see the technology as a means to actually disintermediate them and for their revenues to decline as a part of that. So what I'm going to do is explain a little bit about brokers and how blockchain affects that. To do that, a little wee video. Well, it's actually an animation. We've got Boris here, who this morning I realised looks quite like Donald Trump, and Michael. There's generally a gap that needs to be bridged in any sort of commercial transaction, and that gap is something we'll explain here. So in this case, Boris says, I've got the keys to number 10. Michael says, well, I've got bags of unlimited wealth. Boris says, throw me the money, and Michael says, no, piss off, throw me the keys. So they're not going to exchange anything whilst there's no trust. So what happens in commerce? We manufacture that trust. In pops Teresa. She's a broker and says, hey, guess what? I can help for a fee. So the broker industry is based around exchange of fees for two parties to exchange value, whether it's two individuals or two businesses. Brokers pop up and they mediate and negotiate that exchange. Everyone provides something to Teresa metaphorically, and then the exchange happens. The key thing here is that Teresa takes a record of that in our central database. That's where the value exists. Of course, her mediation skills are key as well. And Michael provides a bag of money to her as part of that. But, as I said before, brokers are being digitized. This room in itself has changed over the last 15 years from an analog means of advertising jobs and roles in newspapers to what we see now, which is a whole plethora of job boards. Bankers are being digitized. Real estate agents have been digitized. Zoopla, Purple Bricks. Auctioneers, eBay in itself is just a large auction site. Lawyers are now being digitized in various means. And within the staff and recruitment sector, we have recruiters being digitized, verifiers being digitized, obviously APPII being part of that space, and job boards. But it's going to go even deeper in what we've seen today. So the question is, for most brokers who realize this threat, is will blockchain replace the broker industry? And the easy answer to that is it won't. But what it will do is for those commodity transactions where there's not a lot of value being added by the broker, that is really subject to being replaced by blockchain. Where there's a complex transaction that requires a lot of negotiation and individuals being involved in that process, then the brokers will remain. So it's the commodity brokers that are actually at risk as part of this change to utilization of the technology. So to put a little bit of light into what blockchain does within the broker model, we're moving from a central database controlled by the broker to a distributed database that's provided to all the participants in a network that wants to exchange value. The easy one to speak about here is Bitcoin, where there are literally hundreds of thousands of people that hold the same database. So what happens is that Boris and Michael say, look, we want to exchange value. And then they ask who agrees. So they go out to this huge amount of different data stores and says who agrees. And if more than 50% of the community agrees that they can exchange value, So they've actually taken that record and they've placed it onto their own databases. Within the blockchain network, Michael and Boris can exchange. So all blockchain is taking that central database that's held by a broker and then basically pushing it out to the network. My mum asked me, what is blockchain? Can you say it simply? She gives me feedback all the time about our business and what we do. The explainer video that we had, she told me to take out the whistling in it, you know. So she's quite vocal. So I just said to look, blockchain is effectively the old method of distributing phone books and phone numbers. We all got a book of all these numbers that we knew was true, and we used that book to communicate with each other. All blockchain is in effect that distribution of data that we know it's actually verified and true. And the key thing is, again, back to it, that Michael, as part of the process, keeps that bag of money. So by getting rid of the broker, Michael receives value in terms of reduced costs for the transaction, and Boris and Michael are able to exchange really quickly. So that's what blockchain effectively is. There's a lot of technology associated with it, but that's what it does. So we put that in the context of finding a job. We've got Jeremy, he's got a CV. He says, I've got a great CV, it's been verified. And the verification's on blockchain, so everyone knows that it's true. And Tony says, okay, I believe you. Why? Because he's looked at the blockchain, he's seen that Jeremy's worked for Labour and has worked for various other political organisations, and he can actually say, okay, I don't need anyone to verify that CV. And the same as the employee contract, that can be pushed onto blockchain now and signed by both Jeremy and Tony, and they exchange that value. So again, we don't really need that broker that sits in between to mediate that exchange. This is quite simplistic. It's not going to exactly happen like this, but hopefully you get the gist. So where we're seeing blockchain used within the staff and recruitment sector, identity verification, it's key to blockchain to understand who people are. There's a lot of work. There's a plethora of startups that are working with banks in particular to identify who you are, put that onto chain, and ensure that it doesn't need to happen again and again and again. As you know, you've got to show your passport or driver's license for many different organizations, and they'll verify it themselves, whether it's a bank or whether it's a telecommunications company. What if you only had it verified once and you were able to show that and everyone's seen it as true? Career history verification, the very business that we're in. You'll know that CVs, between 60 to 80% of people lie on their CVs. It needs to be verified before someone picks up a role. It happens again and again and again, in particular in the contracting market. If I'm moving from one contract to another, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, my CV will be verified by each organisation. If it's verified once, it speeds up that process for both the employer and for the candidate. Background screening, so professional qualifications such as the license to be a pilot or my driver's license, right down to whether or not I'm able to teach. If we can actually verify that again once, it doesn't need to be done again. Work passes is very interesting. So I say work passes, the right to enter, the right to participate, the right to be involved. At the present moment, we've all got tags, we've all got name tags. When I go into a building, I've got to sign a register. If I'm moving from the Gulf of Mexico because I'm a mud engineer and for Shell, and I need to go to the northeast of Scotland, I need to pull all that certificate and work passes. I need to do a lot of work for that. Again, if we verify it once, it makes a great deal of ease for employee mobility. Contract exchange, I can go into later, but there's a lot of work being done right now to actually codify contracts, as in simple contracts, and therefore not require lawyers to be involved, so people can actually sign the contracts on blockchain, and for that to be true. Onboarding is really, really interesting, where not just for employee onboarding into an organisation, but also onboarding for consumers into orgs such as like O2 or EE, Telefonica. If I go into a room or a store and I've got to provide passports, driver's license to prove that I can actually get an account, what if all of the information that's on chain can be used and passed to that particular commercial body as part of onboarding as a customer? Really simple, really quick and trusted. Payments and salary, probably the first real company that used blockchain was within the payments and salary space. Organisation called Chronobank in Australia. So what they did was, within the freelancing sector, or freelancer market, they enabled quick payments of freelancers using blockchain and tokenization, which is probably something you know about cryptocurrency and ICOs and all the rest of it. But they're using blockchain to make immediate exchange of payment for particular services rendered. Something that might take weeks for an organization to release the money to an individual. As soon as the individuals finish their work on a Friday, the individual signs that they finished their work or delivered something, and that exchange can happen immediately through the blockchain network. And performance and rating, we talked to Anna about this just before the session. There's been a huge change with performance management over the years. I think last year PwC or Deloitte said we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to move into a realm, I believe, of micro performance and micro rating that will find its way onto CVs. So we'll see a lot more of information regarding a person's achievements throughout their career and throughout their tenure within a role. And again, something like myself talking to a manager, receiving immediate feedback, whether it be through video, voice, or text, the verification that feedback's taking place and then pushed onto my profile is verified. To have that continuous performance review is something that does not need to be retrospectively gained through reference checks. I think is something that we'll see happening, if not next year, at least in the next 18 months. There's a vast amount of organizations within the blockchain space in HR and staffing. It's quite flabbergasting. When we started in 2016, there maybe been 10 of us, tops. Some have come and gone. Others have gone on to do some great things. I think at the present moment, there's a guy called Andy Spence who takes track of all this. There's about 85 different startups that are utilizing blockchain with HR, staffing, and recruitment. So there's just a load of different service offerings in different parts of the cycle of recruitment, but as well as the HR processes within an organization. I think I'm out of time. A shameless plug. If you want to contact me and know more about APPII, please do so. If you have an iPhone, you can take a photograph of that and it'll bring you straight to our app so you can see what it's all about. Unfortunately, we can't do that for Android. I'm going to be here the whole day. More than happy to take questions right now. But if you want to talk to me outside, then please do so. Thank you.